Hi crafters, Karen here from Karen's Crafting Company, and in today's video I'm going to share with you how I used up the last two pieces of 12 by 12 pattern paper from the winter kit from Hobby Lobby. If you saw my last video, the September Sheetload Rewind, I had used this same paper kit to make those cards. I had had this kit in my stash for over a year, and I had a few pieces left, and I really wanted to try to use the kit up. And after completing the Sheetload Rewind, I had these two sheets left, and I wanted to figure out what I would do with these last two pieces. So I thought I would make some slimline cards along with coordinating envelopes. And that's exactly what I did, and I thought that I would share with you the process on how I made the card and the envelope. So with the scraps that I had left over from the paper, I used on the inside of the card as I had just shown. And then here's the coordinating envelope, and I just thought it went so pretty together. And definitely a great way to use up your paper. Now before getting into the making, I have this last piece of paper and I did cut it off screen, and you will see that I have 4 pieces of the paper. So the large one, the 8.5 by 11, will be used for my envelope. The top left, that is 8.5 by 3.5, and that will be used on the top of my card base. And then the last 2 pieces are the scraps, and I use those to decorate the inside of the card. Now, before I begin sharing with you how I make the envelope and the card, I wanted to share with you the other products that I will be using in conjunction. This snowflake embellishment is actually cut out from the die cut and embossing folder that I will show you in just a moment. And on the back side, I used some kid foam because I wanted some dimension on that snowflake. And here's the folder I was telling you about. So again, this is from Sizzix Tim Holtz, and it is a die cut and embossing folder all in one. And these are really cool and fun to use. I do have another one. It is a poinsettia, and I really like how it works. You can kill 2 birds with 1 stone, so to speak. So they're fun to play with, fun to use, and I got mine at Hobby Lobby about a year ago. The stamp set that I'm using is the Ornaments stamp set from Hero Arts, and I will be using the Winter Wishes Sentiments. And then for my fishtail banner that I used to decorate the inside of the card, I brought in my waffle flower fishtail banner die set. So let's get making. So I'm going to start with the envelope first, and I will need my scoreboard. Now this paper is particularly on the thinner side, more like computer paper. So it's very thin, and you want to be careful when you're scoring. So what I did was I flipped the image face down and I scored from the back. I don't think it really matters. It's really more about the pressure when you're scoring. So I started scoring at 2.5 inches from the left. And again, you want to be very careful. And then on the right side, I scored at 6.5. Then I took my paper and I rotated it 90 degrees, and I checked to make sure that the image was, that the trees were facing on the top part, because I want the flap to be on the top part when it closes. So I scored that at 1.5 inches, and then to the right side I scored at 10.5 inches. And now that the scoring is done, you can see the lines a little bit, and then I try to show you here on the front side, as you can see that crease. Now before assembling the envelope, we need to cut the 4 corners off. I have made these envelopes for a couple of years, and I found a video on YouTube again a couple of years ago, and I've just been making the envelopes ever since. And if I can find that video, I will definitely link it in my description box below. And I'm sure that they're all over YouTube. You can find all kinds of envelope making tutorials. Again, I will try to find that for you and link it in the description box. So here I'm creasing everything, making sure that it's all creased and it folds nicely, and then I'm adhering the larger piece of the longer 2 over to the shorter side, and then using the glue to adhere that smaller flap on the bottom. Now I'm moving into the card base, and all I'm doing is adhering that 8.5 by 3.5 to the front of the card. And that pretty much speaks volumes right there. Just the paper itself is, speaking to the recipients. Very pretty. And now I'm taking my scraps and I'm cutting it down to 3.5, as that is the measurement of the card, the front of the card. So because I'm placing those on the inside, I want to make sure that I'm also matching them when I glue them together. And again, I did my banner off screen, and I will, adhere all that. And now I'm working on placing my sentiment strip. And again, I'm using my scraps for this. I had that nice piece of white paper as part of the pattern paper, and it was perfect. It worked great for the stamp. And I was showing you there that the R didn't quite stamp all the way, and I'm just bringing in a marker to show you how you can fix that if that should happen to you. And then all I'm doing here is I'm using my guillotine cutter from Creative Memories, and I'm just trimming down the sentiment before I adhere it. So now I'm going to start placing the pieces to the inside of the card. I really like that fishtail banner where it has, a little bit of that tree trunk. And then here I'm making sure that I'm placing those 2 pieces in the correct direction, as it was one piece and then it was basically cut in half. And then I had an extra piece hanging, so I just trimmed that off with my scissors. And that takes care of the inside of the card. And now moving on to the embellishment. So I'm taking my snowflake and I am just, adhering it with the glue, and I will place that on the front of the card. And I'm using my stamping block to apply some pressure to help, get that adhered to the front of the card. A lot of other people will just place their card or their block on top and just let it rest there. Personal preference, that's just what I like to do, is, take it and press down on it a little bit. So I had a couple of options with my sentiment. I also had that Hello Winter, which is from a stamp set from Recollections that I got a few years ago at Michael's. And I liked the sentiment. However, I liked the Winter Wishes because it was a little bit smaller and I could see more of the snowflake. And that's really what I was aiming for. So either one of those would have worked fine. But again, I liked the Winter Wishes because it was smaller, and I really wanted that snowflake to have it show as much as I possibly could. Especially using that shimmer paper that I used for the snowflake. And there I am adhering the sentiment onto the front of the snowflake, And there you have it. 2 simple cards, slimline with a coordinating envelope, and using scraps to place on the inside. This was a lot of fun to make, and I'm glad that this kit is now behind me. If you like this video, I ask that you give it a thumbs up and go ahead and hit that subscribe button and click that bell for notifications. Until my next video, friends, I hope your day is a crafty one. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.